Welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to continue my talk about Zhuangzi's thought about happiness. This is the second video of this new series of Zhuangzi's thought. In my first video of this series, I told 3 stories to illustrate his thoughts, and I explained the 3 成语or fixed phrases derived from the 3 stories. 鲁侯养鸟 or Marquis of Lu greeting a bird. 泥土叶尾 or drag one's tail in the mud. 刻舟求简 or carving a mark on a boat to look for one's thoughts. The key point from the first video is that happiness is an individual thing. It is closely related to the goals you set for yourself, and your view about happiness changes over time. If you haven't watched this video, here's the link. Now, back to today's topic. Although I started with the concept of what happiness is, Zhuangzi did not. As a true philosopher, Zhuangzi's discussion about happiness begins by taking apart people's implicit assumptions about what happiness is. This is how he started the discussion in chapter 18. Like Socrates, Zhuangzi's philosophical inquiry starts by questioning what are taken for granted by people. Many of us assume that power, wealth, fame, and flesh pleasure are the keys to obtaining happiness. That is why brothers fight each other, friends betray each other, politicians break their election promises, academics plagiarize, and many other despicable things people do to obtain power, wealth, or fame. As Zhuangzi sees it, these acts are all based on a false promise that power, wealth, or fame will bring us happiness. Well, what Zhuangzi does in chapter 18 is to break this delusion. I'm Dr. Gao, a philosopher obsessed with poetry. I make videos about classical Chinese poetry, philosophies, and traditional Chinese medicine. Please click the like button and subscribe my channel so that I can provide more high-quality videos for you. Your support is very important for me. I also offer one-to-one online lessons on these subjects. So if you would like to read the original text with me, please contact me. Here's my email address. Now, let's read Zhuangzi chapter 18. It begins with a series of questions. Is there a perfect happiness to be found in this world? Is there a way to prolong one's life in this world? How shall we act to pursue happiness? What are the reasons to act the way we act? What shall we avoid? What shall we pursue? What brings us pleasure and joy? What brings us misery? My translation is adapted from Huseman and Young. Their translation is the best English translation I can find until now, although I don't always agree with their translation and interpretation. I listed the link to their book in the description section down below. If you're interested, you can check out the book. Anyway, although the questions posed by Zhuangzi are important, but this questioning approach is extremely important. Don't forget, Zhuangzi asked these questions during the 4th century BCE, almost at the same time as Socrates were asking similarly annoying questions to his fellow citizens at Athens. Only Zhuangzi was asking this question to his disciples. At that time, other classical Chinese philosophical texts, such as the Analects of Confucius, Mo Zhi, or mentors did not ask any question. These texts simply preach what is right and require people to do what they said. So, Zhuangzi's approach to the philosophical issues such as ethics, knowledge, or cosmology stand out quite uniquely among his contemporary philosophers. Now, let's look at Zhuangzi's list of the common sense answers to these questions. That is, what people assumed about happiness. Here's my translation, again adapted from Huisman and Young. What the world values is riches, social status, longevity, and fame. What it finds pleasurable is pleasures for the body, tasty food, fine garment, entertained by beautiful women and handsome men, as well as pleasant music. What it dislikes are poverty, low social status, died young, and bad reputation. What men consider painful are that they cannot rest their bodies and find peace, can't afford tasty food and beautiful garments, can't enjoy the companies of beautiful women or handsome men, or entertained by pleasant music. If they do not get these things, they become sorrowful and fearful. How stupid they are for doing so much for these tangible pleasures. The key point here is the last line, 其为行也异于哉? Or how stupid they are for doing so much for these tangible pleasures. I would like to explain the character 行 first. 形 means something that is tangible, such as a color, a smell, a taste, or an object that takes up space. That is, something that can be sensed by our sensory faculties. The human body is certainly one of such tangible things. In the philosophical discourse, a 形 is often used to refer our physical body, in contrast to 心 or 神, that is, our mind or soul. In this textual context, Zhuangzi clearly used 形 as the name referring to a category of tangible things related to human desires, such as tasty food, fine garments, beautiful companies, and entertainment. It is implied that these tangible things can be obtained via the tangible power, wealth, or fame. The point here is that making our minds and souls to work for such tangible things, according to Zhuangzi, is stupid. This idea has been one of the core values in Taoist philosophy in the following centuries, ever since Zhuangzi. 7 centuries later, a poet named Tao Yuanming coined a phrase to represent this value. It is called 心为形役, or to enslave one's heart and mind for one's body, meaning to sacrifice one's freedom or principles for flesh pleasure. I'm certainly going to talk about this poet, Tao Yuanming. He is the culture icon for countless Chinese scholars who retreated to the mountains, lakes, and rivers and refused to serve a king or an emperor to either maintain their moral integrity or simply to preserve their freedom in the last 15 centuries. I have made a video about such a man named Lin Bu, who refused to serve the founder of the Song dynasty because the emperor conquered his homeland. Here's the link to my video. Now, let's see how Zhuangzi takes apart the delusion that riches, high social status, and power would bring us happiness. The wealthy men worked themselves very hard to accumulate wealth. They become so rich that they would never be able to apply their wealth to its full potential, and they alienated themselves from who they really are. People of high status are filled with anxiety day and night, wondering if they are doing enough to maintain their status, so much so that they forget who they really are. People are born along with anxiety. If they live to their old age, they become senile. They only suffer more if their lives are prolonged. How insufferable! This is so far away from what they really want. What Zhuangzi said here might be a little bit confusing at first glance. However, if you think about it, it is not difficult to understand. If one works too hard to the point that it damages his or her health, it is certainly not good. We're still facing the same problem thousands years later today. Many of us believe that if we work hard and accumulate enough materials, we will be happy. However, this is not always true. Sometimes we need to have a reasonably fair social-political system to ensure that our basic needs are met. If we live in an unfair society, no matter how hard one works, one might still not be able to support one's family and oneself. And even though one can accumulate wealth, there is still the question if one can use one's wealth wisely. We have witnessed too many super rich people abuse their power brought to them by their wealth. Such acts from the rich people not only bring misfortune to themselves, but also harm others, leading to unrest and chaos in a society. People of high social status are also not guaranteed happiness. They often have a lot to worry about. The higher the status they rise, the more risk they run to become a target. To maintain their social status, they would need to be vigilant all the time. Looking at the gated communities around the world, they are simply prisons that the rich people build for themselves. To live a long life might also have its downsides, that is, suffering from various medical conditions, including Alzheimer's disease, etc. These are just the key arguments Zhuangzi presented in chapter 18. He also made a lot of other arguments throughout his book along the same line, which I won't have time to talk about. I'm certainly going to make a lot of other videos to talk about those issues. To cut a long story short, I would like to tell the following story of Zhuangzi's conversation with a skull and explain the fixed phrase or 成语 from this story, 视死如归, to regard death as going home. It is very interesting that Zhuangzi also talked to a skull like Hamlet, just a little over 2,000 years ago. In Hamlet's monologue in this scene, he lamented about the loss of a dear friend, the unavoidable decay of human body, and the sorrow brought by the death of a dear friend. Of course, the skull did not respond. What Zhuangzi reported in his story is a true conversation, because the spirit of the skull came to his dream after he asked his questions. Now, let me tell you the story. Zhuangzi went to Chu. He saw a skull by the road, bleached but still in shape. Tapping it with his whip, he asked it, "Did you, sir, stray from the path of reason and come to this? Or did you bring about the destruction of a state and were punished by an axe? Or Was it that your disreputable conduct brings disgrace to your parents, your wife, and children? Or did you perish from cold and hunger? Or did you live to a natural end of your life? After talking to the skull, he made a pillow of it and went to sleep. At midnight, the skull appeared to Zhuangzi in a dream and said, "The way you talked to me was like an orator. What you said were the entanglement of life. There is no such concerns after death. Would you like to hear the views of a spirit?" Zhuangzi said, "Yes, I would like that. In death, there is no Lord above or subject below. There is no business to attend during the 4 seasons. Tranquil and at ease, our years are aligned with heaven and earth. No king in his court has greater happiness than what we have." Zhuangzi did not believe it and said, "If I could get the Lord of our destiny to restore your body to life with its bones and flesh and skin, to give you back your father and mother, your wife and children, and all your neighbors and friends, would you like me to do so?" The skull looked sorrowful and said, "How could I relinquish my contentment greater than that of a king and take on the worldly burden again?" As you can see, the spirit simply dismissed the questions and said that those were no longer concerns to him after death. The spirit stated that he was no longer confined by the social hierarchy, burdened by the needs of make a living, and enjoyed the peace and comfort as long as the heaven and earth remain, and even rejected the temptation to get his life back. It is quite clear what was valued the most by the spirit is freedom. The freedom from the imposed restriction by social hierarchy, physical needs, or the elements from the natural environment, such as the seasonal changes, etc. It is quite interesting that Zhuangzi also contemplated life and death using the imageries of facing a skull, just like Shakespeare. But Zhuangzi's response to death sounds almost like a Christian story of going to heaven. However, there is a critical difference. At the other side of death, unlike the Christian teaching, there is no loving God waiting for a spirit. Instead, the spirits simply return to where it comes from. That is, the ceaselessly transforming Tao. This is where the fixed phrase 视死如归, or to regard death as going home, come from. The moral of this story is that the key to happiness is not power, wealth, or fame. To obtain our happiness, we need to overcome our fear and anxiety about death. In other chapters, Zhuangzi also talks about his taking on diseases, disability, and dying. According to Zhuangzi, it is not the suffering or death that bring us misery, but the anxiety and the fear of suffering and death that ruined our happiness. One can be in pain but still be happy. One can also celebrate a loved one's passing and be happy that he or she lived a fulfilled life, or they are released from suffering or pain. For Zhuangzi, to die is not the end, or entering the terrifying unknown. It is to go home, to where we all come from. Of course, one can still mourn the loss, but as long as we remember our loved ones, they are not dead to us. They have simply gone to where we all come from, and they will come back, although might be in a different form. This is the magic of Zhuangzi's story. It helps to take away our fear and anxiety and offer immense comfort. Now, I'm going to tell the last story for this video known as 骨盆儿歌, or drumming a basin and singing. This story, as controversial as it is, clearly demonstrates Zhuangzi's view about happiness. I'm going to tell the story first, and then translate Zhuangzi's argument defending his act, so that you will know exactly what Zhuangzi said. When Zhuangzi's wife died, Huizi went to condole him and find him sitting on the ground, drumming on a basin and singing. Huizi said, when a wife has lived with her husband and raised his children and then died in her old age, not to mourn is already enough, but to drum on a basin and sing? Is this not going too far? Huizi was a close friend of Zhuangzi, as well as a philosophical rival of him. There are several stories recorded in the book Zhuangzi about their debates on philosophical issues. Apparently, Huizi was arguing for the social conventions about mourning the passing of a loved one. Here is Zhuangzi's defense. 不然，是其实时也，我独何能无盖然？不 means not, 然 means so. 是 means yes, indicating that Zhuangzi was just as sad as Huizi assumed. Qi refers to Zhuangzi's wife, so I translate it as her. 始 means at the beginning, refers to the first few days after his wife died. 死 means die. 也 is the mark indicating the end of a sentence. 我 means I. 独 means alone. 何 means how. 能 means can. 无 means do not. Gai is an alternative scribe for kai, refers to strong feeling. 盖然 means to be very sad. So these two lines can be translated as, not so. When she died, how could I not mourn for her like everyone else? 察其始而本无生，非徒无生也而本无形，非徒无形也而本无气。察 means ponder. Qi refers to the wife, so I translate it as her. 始 again refers to the first few days of her passing. 而 means but. 本 means root. 无 means without. 生 means birth. 本无生 refers to the time before his wife was born, so I simply translate the term as before she was born. 非 means not. 徒 means only. 无 means do not have. 生 means life. 也 again is the mark indicating the end of a sentence. 而 means but. 本无形 follows the same format as 本无生, refers to the time before his wife has a form. 非 again means not. 徒 means only. 无 means do not have. 形 means form. 也 again is a mark indicating the end of the sentence. 而 means but. 本无气 follows the same format as 本无生 and 本无形. I need to explain the relationship between qi and xing. By Zhuangzi's time, philosophers were debating about the origin of the cosmos, and many of them believed that qi is the primal material that makes up the cosmos, and that the phenomena or xing that our sensory faculty can grasp are the different forms of the concentrated qi. We see such discussions about the qi and xing in Manchu's Zhuangzi as well as the Book of Rites. So here, Zhuangzi was talking about the qi that concentrated and made up her body. So I translate 本无qi as before there was the qi from which her form originated. So the three lines can be translated as, I pondered on the beginning of her existence before she was born, when she had no life. Not only this, but before she took any form. Not only before she had a form, but before there was the qi from which her form originated. 杂乎忙物之间，变而有气，气变而有形，形变而有生，今又变而知始，是相与为春秋冬夏四时行也。杂 means mixed. Hu is the linking word that has no meaning. Mang refers to the tiny fur on a leaf of a seed. Wu refers to the alfalfa sprouts. These are probably the tiniest things Zhuangzi could find. Here they are used to represent things that are imperceptible by our sensory faculties. 之间 means among something. 变 means transformation. 而 means and. 有 means there is. Qi refers to the primal material that made up everything. Because there is no English counterpart for qi, so I just keep it untranslated. Qi, again, is not translated. 变 means transform, but it can also be interpreted as a sudden change. It is used as a different way to that of the slow transformation which is presented by the character hua. In most textual contexts, 变 and hua are interchangeable. In modern Chinese, 变 and hua are often used together as 变化 means change. So to avoid the repetition, I just translate 变 here as sudden change. 而 means and. 有 means there is. 形 means form. 形 again means form. 变 means transform. 而 means and. 有 means there is. 生 means life. 有生 literally means to have a life. Here Zhuangzi is talking about the time when his wife was born. So I translate it as she was born. 今 means now. 又 means again. 变 means transform. 而 means and. 知 refers to the wife, so I translate it as she. 死 means die. 是 means these. 相与 means with each other. 为 means to be like something. 春 means spring. 秋 means autumn. 冬 means winter. 夏 means summer. 四 means fall. 时 means season. 行 literally means to move forward. So I translate it with 四时 or the fall season as seasonal changes. 也 is the mark indicating the end of a sentence. So these four lines can be translated as, from the imperceptible there was a transformation, and qi arose. Qi changes suddenly, and there was her form, and she was born. Now, there is another transformation, and she is died. These processes are like the seasonal changes. One follows the other. 人且俨然起于句式， 而我傲傲然随而酷之，自以为不通乎命，故直也。人 literally means person, but here it is clear that Zhuangzi is talking about his wife, so I translate it as she. 且 is a linking word with no meaning. 俨 means lay down. 俨然 refers to the states of laying down. 巨 means huge. 室 means chamber. 巨室 literally means great chamber, but here it refers to the space between heaven and earth. So I just translate it as between heaven and earth. means and, 我 means I. 傲傲然 is a adjective to describe how loud Zhuangzi is crying. 水 means follow. means and. 哭 means cry. 之 refers to Zhuangzi's wife. 智 is a self-reference, so I translate it as I. 以为 means think. 不 means failed to. 通 means understand. Who is a linking word with no meaning. 命 means destiny. 故 means therefore also. 止 means stop. 也 is the mark indicating the end of a sentence. So these three lines can be translated as, now she is resting between heaven and earth. If I were to follow her and howling with grief, then I think I failed to understand our destiny. So I stopped myself. Zhuangzi's arguments are quite clear. Life emerges spontaneously with the changes in the cosmos. So does death. Life and death are just a part of the ceaseless transformation of the Tao, like the seasonal changes. There is no point to cry when the spring is gone or when the chilly autumn frost kills all the insects. Of course, we can still mourn for the passing of our loved ones. But if we understand the great transformative Tao, we should become more accepting about death and celebrate death just like we celebrate life. I think this is the key point about Zhuangzi's conception of happiness. Happiness cannot be obtained by climbing the social ladder, accumulate wealth, or through flies pleasure. To be happy is to go beyond life and death, so that we would no longer be bothered by the anxiety and fear of losing our social status, the need to pursue material gain or chase flesh pleasure, or the fear of death. Again, I present three stories about Zhuangzi's view of what is not happiness and his contemplation on life and death, and explained the three 成语, or fixed phrases, 心为形意, or to enslave one's heart and mind for one's body, 视死如归, or to regard death as going home, and 骨盆儿歌, or drumming a basin and singing. I'm Dr. Gao, a philosopher obsessed with poetry. I make videos about classical Chinese poetry, philosophies, and traditional Chinese medicine. Please click the like button and subscribe my channel so that I can provide more high-quality videos for you. I also offer one-to-one online lessons on these subjects. If you would like to read the original Chinese text with me, please contact me. Here's my email address. Thanks for watching my video, and I'll see you next time.